Do you put song titles in your scripts?
There are just people out there that will tell it. There are just people that will yell at Nick.
Like people will throw your script out.
But I had this instinct and understanding, having done enough material, shot enough material of my own, knowing that this is kind of my shot. And if I fuck it up, especially as a woman in this industry, I don't get around to. I got to level up as a filmmaker on this movie. We were shooting on Super 8, which is very unstable. Like, the film cameras were struggling in the cold.
Welcome back to The Hollywood Hang, a podcast about the highs, lows, and hell no's of this crazy industry. I am Nick, one of your hosts.
And I am Tupper, the other host.
Today we have somebody that I've wanted to get on the podcast for a very long time. Maggie Levin is a genre writer and filmmaker with rock and roll roots. Recently, she wrote and directed her debut feature, My Valentine, for Hulu and Blumhouse, and an original segment for VHS 99 via Shudder, which premiered at TIFF in 2022. She also served as second unit director and title concept designer for Universal's The Black Phone and its upcoming sequel, Black Phone 2. Maggie's work as a screenwriter includes Caster for Paramount Pictures. She's currently adapting Clay McLeod Chapman's Ghost Eaters for Sony Screen Gems. I love that book. Her awards include Best Director at Austin Indie Fest for the short film Heal. Maggie, thank you for coming on.
Yay!
Thank you so much for having me. It's very exciting. I've seen both of you in the wild, and I'm fans of your work online. I accosted Tepper in a Trader Joe's once.
Okay, that's actually...
Oh, really?
No, but it was mask season, I think, still. And I was just like, oh, Trader Joe's and me, I am like dead set on my plan. And like, I was just like, someone knows. Like, I don't know anybody. So I was just like, hello.
Oh, I feel like you told me about this at one point. You're like, someone came up to me. Yeah.
Well, because I remember I was around for the heyday of screenwriting Twitter. And then there was like, as it slowly decayed, nothing took it over. Nothing threadable took it over except y'all. And so when the two of you started popping up on TikTok, I was like, oh, thank God, some smart people talking about screenwriting, because, it's a wasteland of misinformation otherwise.
Well, and okay, me and Nick have a strong, I mean, not a strong issue, but like I think really bother like really old men in this industry. Like they do not enjoy our takes, and like
I mean,
yeah,
you're doing like that is good. That's good. You're doing good work. Bother the old man. And I say this as I'm around a lot of the old guard all the time, and I think there's the faction that embraces you and that kind of know what they're doing, and then I'm not going to shit on old male screenwriters
as
too
like a
much
whole group,
because I'm on the board of the Writers Guild, and I'm here to represent everybody.
I have a lot of questions about that. I also, though, I'm holding this mug, well. So like we're not like quite at like I'm not fair to one party of the world ever. But okay, I want to know how I love the horror community because you guys are like so close, and like everyone is like the kindest human that you like ever interact with. How did you always love horror, or was that something that you like?
No.
Oh, okay, do tell.
No. I as a kid, I was a big fraidy cat. I always loved weird, spooky, freaky fairy tale type of stuff. Was definitely raised on like original Grimm's fairy tales and vampire things. So like I loved, if it had a component of magic, or like, the Fae are going to steal you and kill you in the woods, there was something like I loved about that. That always spoke to me. I feel like it's the like Russian, Ukrainian, like my grandmother was a children's librarian at the Boston Public Library, and so she fed me a lot of that stuff when I was a kid. But yeah, proper like horror movies. I'm not somebody who like Michael Kennedy, I always love hearing him talk about his relationship to slashers. You know, he's
like
lived
the slasher
that
expert,
his whole life. And I saw Scream at a slumber party and tapped out of horror for a solid like 10 years. So I had a lot of catch up to do later when I discovered that my sensibilities as a filmmaker really aligned with a lot of what goes on in horror. And I think we're in a moment where filmmaking, I mean, major motion pictures, movies in theaters are centered around events, and horror is now a place to do real heavy drama because it's also an event. So I feel very fortunate that I kind of got into horror. And also, as you're saying, horror people are just the sweetest, most inviting. It's the opposite in comedy. You know, you meet comedy people, they're brutal.
Yeah, those are the people you got to watch out for.
That actually tracks.
Yeah, and I, you know, I'm friends with a lot of comedians as well, but you know, there's an edge there that in horror we're just all like, we love to kill people on screen and we hug each other off screen. It's a fun juxtaposition.
I was also a really, really scared kid, but I would watch that stuff anyway. Do horror films scare you now, or are you kind of?
Yes, sometimes. I think I've become a little desensitized on purpose so that I can endure what I need to know what's going on. But there's a threshold. There's some things. When I was first getting like really back into it, it was when Dr. Sleep was out, and Scott and I went to a screening I think it was on the Warner Brothers lot, and it was just the two of us. It was very fancy, and I was very impressed. And I also laid down on the floor at one point because I was too freaked out. And it's not even like my threshold is much higher now, but I'll get got occasionally. The Babadook really got me. I think suspense and dread get me more than anything shocking or jump scare oriented. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't jump. There was a jump in The First Smile, which I saw at Fantastic Fest a couple of years ago, that I was right next to Parker also, because it was his like premiere, and I was crawling up into my seat. It's the scene where she has headphones on. Man. Anyway, I could just talk about the things that got me in the last couple of years, if you'd like.
What are your thoughts on the jump scare as a horror filmmaker?
I think they're important. They're an important tool in the toolbox. You know, I think you got to bust them out here and there, but use sparingly. Weapons did it. Weapons got me 3 times, and I knew it was coming. I started to do a thing where in order to endure it, I just do this in my seat. Because I'm like, it's coming in about 10
and there is
12.
like a rhythm to it also, kind of. Yeah.
If you just sort of like slow tap your foot, it makes it'll chill the heart rate down.
That's a good note. That is a good note for me, because I like whenever the music starts, I'm like, something's coming for me, and I like my bass go into my ears, and I'm just like, this. It makes me feel better that you do that.
Gone.
Yes.
When the music's gone, that's when you really got to start dancing.
Wait, but you're also a musician, right? So is that?
Well, my father is a rock bassist who plays with Peter Gabriel and King Crimson, and so I grew up on rock tours and unfortunately dated musicians very extensively. So I just very, very much in the rock and roll world. I do play, but not in front of anybody. Yeah, just I do but I love music, and I'm very ensconced in the music industry. So a lot of what I wind up writing, especially when I'm speccing something, is music oriented.
Do you put song titles in your scripts?
Of course.
Here we go.
Nick is really like I'm not like grilling you, but like the intensity of which he's asking you questions is abnormal.
No, I'm curious. I'm curious.
I love it. we haven't we've seen each other in these social settings, and we haven't really gotten to like rap about anything. So this is exciting.
Wait, you said you do put them in.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah.
No. I agree with that. There are just people out there that will tell it.
This?
There are just people that will yell at Nick. Yeah.
You can never put a song title on the script because you don't know if you're going to get the rights to it. Like people will throw your script out. There's a soundbite.
Yes,
we're writing a blueprint for a dream. The whole thing is a fantasy. Like if it gets made, you'll figure it out. Of course, it's not. Of course, you're not going to get 3 Led Zeppelin songs into a movie, even if you're Scott Derrickson, who actually he got 3 Led Zeppelin songs into his student film. And that's an incredible story. I'll try to talk him into coming on your podcast so he can tell that story.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But, you can't get one. I mean, because they're $1 million. But for the read, I want you to picture a whole lot of love during this fight scene? Absolutely, I do. And that is my right.
That's like, I think that one of those things where it's like, whatever's going to make someone turn the page, like, do it. Yeah. What else is your job at that moment?
It's not worth putting like a whole bunch of obscure, pretentious, I would love to do that. But, and actually in a script of mine that is hopefully going to get announced. I don't know. I mean, I have 2 projects that I would love to talk about, but can't. But one of them is very music oriented, and that has some really specific stuff in it, but it also comes accompanied with a playlist, and the music element is really important. But yeah, no, if it's going to help with the read, put it in. Put anything in to help with the read. You take it out later. Let the line producer worry about it.
So were you as like a kid, like very like not safe, I don't know what that word is. Maybe that's the word. But like allowed to be like, oh, I want to be a writer. Like I want to be whatever I want to be, with like a dad who was a musician.
Yeah. Yes. I had a very artistic upbringing. My dad being a musician, my mother a ballerina. So going into the arts was not it was sort of expected. And I picked the one thing that they didn't do, which at the time was theater. So I came up through theater. I went to theater school. I majored in theater directing. I always knew that from very young, I was really interested in being in charge of everybody. So I did do a lot of directing of plays when I was in middle school and high school and college, all the way through. And then right out of theater school, started a theater company, realized I was going to spend the majority of my time fundraising to make said plays, which is a little bit true in the film world. But there was a musical of mine that I came out here with and did a workshop of at UCLA. And then once I landed here, I got into screenwriting classes and just sort of pivoted because I was like, oh, this is cool and this is related to what I do. And I also, I grew up loving film as much as I loved live theater, but because I grew up in New York, I was just closer to theater. So it seemed more, it's that thing of like, representation is important because you see, oh, I can do this. I know how to do this. I knew people who were theater directors. So I was like, I'll go into theater directing. And then I got out here. I was like, oh, I see people who are film directors. I'll do that.
So after the theater stuff, what was your thought process on like how to kind of transition into the film stuff?
I started directing music videos. Again, I like sort of sussed out where to go for a screenwriting education. And I because I had done this like homeschooling thing in high school, I was really into self-educating in general. So kind of going out and cherry picking like classes at UCLA Extension and at UCB and even at Leslie Kahn. And at the same time, kind of entering screenwriting Twitter and learning from the people who were there. The big thing for me where I got my screenwriting education was at the time it was called the Nerdist Writers Panel podcast, and now it's just called the Writers Panel by Ben Blacker. That kind of introduced me to what the Hollywood system was going to be like. And there was something so alluring and exciting to me about it. It seemed like a weird little creative competition to get into. And yeah, I feel like I fell into it, but I was also really intentional. And I think it was at some like women in film networking event thing, I managed to like talk my way into directing a series called The Friendless Five, which wound up on Full Screen. And then I wound up co-writing and directing a whole bunch of these digital series. There was a moment where every single platform had, it was like AT&T and Verizon, and everybody was like, we're going to make our own app and it's going to have 10 series on it. Facebook was making series, like, and there are a whole bunch of writers in my generation who joined the guild and got all of their first gigs surrounding these things like Verizon Go 90 and YouTube had one.
There's actually an amazing Elizabeth Olsen Facebook show. Elizabeth Olsen started and
wasn't it called like Sorry for Your Loss or something?
I think so. And it was
really
like
good.
It was amazing actually. I think about it often and I'm like, that was just on Facebook. Like
yeah. I mean, you would make a digital series, it would be out on the app. 2 people would see it and then the app would die.
Well, that's kind of unfortunate because now I actually think this would be the time for them to be doing that. Yeah. Like it was like almost a little bit too ahead.
I think that they've sorted it out a little more now and there's more like vertical series because consuming video on your phone became popular a couple years later, exactly like you're saying.
Was the Freeform a part of that whole thing?
New Form Digital was the one that I remember.
Wait, you are the second person who has said that like these kind of like networking events, which I don't go to many, guys. I am like sweating and want to throw up when I'm at these places. Like I'm real nervous. But you are the second person who was like, I went out and like, that's how I found people. And I just want to hear a little bit more. Like, did you also to the homeschooling and the resourcefulness? I'm obsessed with that because I think that's like such the skill of like, just knowing you have to go find the thing that you want. So were you just like searching online for like screenwriting hangouts or something?
Yeah. I mean, it was a mixture of people that I met socially and sussing things out online. You know, I had, of course, a series of side hustles. The main thing that I did while I was coming up was I was a fit model where it's like trying on clothes for a living. And so I would drive all over the city all day long.
Wait, I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah. All of every mass marketed piece of clothing is mass marketed, mass produced, is generally fit on a one standard human body and then proportionally sized up or sized down. So I represented a specific size for a series of brands.
That's amazing. I have never heard of this job. That's amazing.
Yeah, so interesting.
It was a great foundational side hustle while I was working my way into the film industry. But I mean, the real game changer for me after a while of trying to self-educate and get to know people and do as much networking as I could stand, which I really can't believe looking back that I did as much as I did, because the idea of going to a networking event at this moment turns my stomach just so hard. Things have really changed also since COVID. Like the idea of going and like I remember those women in film. It's not women in film properly. It's some other not as organized organization. But it's like speed dating where you go like sit with different people at different. Oh, what a nightmare.
But
if
it was
you're
worth
coming
it.
up, you should probably do it. But I admit, it's terrible. And yeah, so as I was like searching around and learning things. And then at a certain point, I think I had been in LA for 2 years. And I was like, I'm just going to take my fit modeling money and I'm going to make a short film and I'm going to go for it. And that was the major turning point into the rest of my career, really. I mean, it took some time, but that feels like where I really kicked things off.
What was that short film?
It's called Lovesick. It's a gross little rom-com where there's a literalization of somebody with a broken heart and a bleeding heart, or a heart on their sleeve and a bleeding heart. So, and they meet at a party, and that's it. They meet at a party, they go home.
So you kind of knew, like, did that kind of lean in? Were you kind of like, oh yeah, I kind of like this, like, was that like a darker tone? Was it more of just like the literal representation was kind of gore?
Yeah, I mean, you can see, because even though it's a comedy, you can absolutely see the foundation of what I went on to do and am still doing. I love body horror. I think gross stuff is so interesting. I watched The Substance and I was like cackling. I was the only person in that theater laughing so hard.
The Substance was, I didn't know you could like do that. Like that, I think I was just like this, a pure shock every single scene.
Did you like Together?
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, you got to see it.
Yeah. It's a very like,
yeah.
That one is also really funny. I have been really enjoying, and I like the comedy horror crossover is like a really fun, comfy space to like enter this world. Like,
yeah, well, like even like you watch The Monkey. The Monkey is hysterical.
Yes. I loved Companion this year. I was like, this is so funny.
And Final Destination, like I know it's rough when there's like a post going through a lady's head, but also it's funny.
But a lot of these horror films that do have humor, they're not necessarily pitched or marketed as horror comedy, because like horror comedy is considered a phrase that you're not supposed to say, because people freak out that it's like, we're not going to get either audience, and it's not going to be scary, it's not going to be funny. Like, it's so dumb.
I thought Weapons was so funny, and I was also so scared, and there was a mystery, and I was like, I love a mystery. Like, I love having something to chase. Yeah.
Great drama, great comedy, all contained in horror right now, because otherwise you can't put it in a theater. I mean, that part's very sad. I do remember a time where you could go to a theater and see like a regular straight up comedy, straight up drama, and it would make money. Sorry, we don't have to go into the like everything that's sad. Bring the mood down.
No. But okay, so no, Nick, you were gonna go.
No, I was just going to ask, like, so after the short film, what led to the first big or the next big step? Like, was it a script that you wrote that got you a rep? What was kind of the next big thing?
So I guess I told the story a little bit backwards. I mean, the short film, then that was the piece of, that was the sample that got me those series. And then I was playing around writing both. I think when you're starting out, maybe this is common. It seemed to be common when I was coming up, where you're like, well, I'll try writing pilots and I'll write screenplays. I'll just spaghetti at the wall. So I was doing equal amounts of trying to figure out a TV career and trying to figure out a feature career. Now, I would say, other than I have done some TV pilot development, I don't know that I'll ever do it again. I have hard committed to, like, I'm a person who makes features. So the next big step was I wrote a spec called Retrograde, which was a very heady sci-fi two-hander, but very producible. And I wrote it with that intention.
Did you have that in mind? Okay,
idea.
that's what I was going to ask. Because I think
I had at that point made enough stuff on my own and with other people to understand what things cost. I know I just talked about how you can put whatever damn needle drop you want, blow, whatever, but there, understanding a little bit more about the marketplace and understanding also if I'm ever going to get to direct a feature length piece of my own, it has to be made at a price.
Mm-hmm.
So when you wrote it, did you have in your head, just because you had made some stuff, were you like, this is the budget I can tell people that this could be made at?
I think I had a ballpark idea. It has since been priced out in various forms. Like, I think there's a $5 million version of that movie, and then there's a very difficult $2 million version of that movie. But it also had, I think it had two things going for it. It was a really high concept, and it also was really a meaty character drama amid this time looping concept. So that script, one, got me hip pocketed by a manager who I left about a year and a half later. And
can you tell people what that means? Because I don't know that that's come up on our podcast yet.
Sure. Hip pocketed means when a rep takes you on but doesn't really do anything with you. They're like, I'm your representative. It's the end. Like, you see them on emails, you show them stuff, and they don't do anything with it. Absolutely no fault of this person. They sort of did it as a favor to my friend, but I think we're just keeping tabs to see where I would go, but not really doing anything with me to advance me. But
like an unofficial rep, right? Like, even though it's not necessarily being an official rep, whatever that means, but it's like kind of unofficial handshake type thing.
Right. Yeah. And, helped negotiate my deals on some of those digital series, but wasn't really the manager I have now. I work with very closely and have from the get-go to really craft a career and to play out strategy. And also, when I give her a piece of material, she and my entire team will aggressively get it out to the world. That's very different than just being like, well, I can put this person's name on the front cover of my stuff and they'll answer a phone call, but I'm doing all of the legwork myself, really. You never stop having to need to do your own legwork, I think. There are probably people who can kick back and do whatever, but not if you're, I don't know. I think that if you get into this to be like, and now I'm done and let the machine run itself, weird.
Well, that's like, I think people say it's like your team only gets 10% because they only do 10% of the work. Like, you really have to keep producing, making stuff that's like worthwhile, meeting everybody.
Well, and even when calls are coming in for you, I just think it's rare. I don't hear a lot of people who are like, I'm getting calls for exactly the kind of stuff that I want to be doing. Like, no one feels that way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You have to go chase the next dream every time. So Retrograde, and this, have I told this story? So I was introduced to my husband, Scott Derrickson, by a mutual actress friend of ours. And we started hanging out as friends. He read Retrograde. Cargill, his writing and producing partner, read Retrograde. They were starting to get into producing other people's work. They attached to Retrograde as producers, brought that script to Jason Blum. And I met with the Blum feature team about Retrograde. Simultaneous to this, because this was going on, got a brand new rep team, the manager I have now. I signed at WME, and Burlstein is my management company. When I presented Retrograde to Blumhouse, they were interested in doing it, but they immediately said, let's produce this under our like incubator program, which at the time was this Into the Dark Hulu series, which was a movie per month per holiday, TV movies, horror TV movies on a theme. And I looked at the model of how they were making those, which was unbelievably fast and cheap, which no diss on unbelievably fast and cheap. It serves a purpose. And there was an offer on the table for me and my script. So, but I had this instinct and understanding, having done enough material, shot enough material of my own, knowing that this is kind of my shot. And if I fuck it up, especially as a woman in this industry, I don't get a round two. So I said to my brand new team, I think that this is a bad idea to produce this script under this model. I don't think it will go well. I think I will be set up to fail. And everybody was like, but you have an offer on the table. What do you mean? I was like, well, I have another idea that, and I had barely an idea. I had a shred of a thought of an idea. I was like, I'll come up with one. Let me pitch them something else. I know the slot they're trying to fill. I understand. I had at that point gone home, done my homework, watched a whole bunch of them, and saw one in particular called "I'm Just Fucking with You," which was an April Fool's one.
That one's good.
I love that one. Yeah. And I was like, I can make one of these, absolutely, for sure. I cannot make Retrograde, my high concept sci-fi, future apocalypse love story under these circumstances in 17 days. No way. So the team and Scott both said, okay, like, you got another pitch? We'll get you in the meeting to do another pitch. So over the phone to Sahar Vahedi, who was in charge of stuff there at the time, I pitched a 5-minute version of My Valentine. She said yes. That was in April of 2019. I pitched it in April, wrote it May, June, prepped July, shot August. It was out by the following February.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So Retrograde also would have been to fill the Valentine slot?
Yeah, which would have made zero sense. It would not. No one would have liked to see a sci-fi romance in their horror. It was very, very generous of them to like think about it, but it wouldn't have worked. I think everyone felt that too. Like, we're interested in doing this, but we're really rolling the dice on a brand new filmmaker, and we're mostly doing it off of the word of Scott and Cargill because we have this relationship with them. But high risk for them. So I'm very glad that I also took a huge swing and said, let me bring you something else.
That shred of an idea.
A feature script.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, that shred of an idea. Like, was that like you were like, you had already done obviously something that was like very relationship-y, the heart on the sleeve. Like, were you kind of like, I can find you something more appropriate. Don't take my real, like my baby.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yes. I knew that I could do something about abuse in the music industry. I have it be like a abusive love triangle, something I was sort of seeing go on right next door to me in my real life. And that is, I'll say, the one really painful thing about making that film is it's so ripped straight from stuff that I had personally witnessed. I think that if I had had more time to think about it, I would have written a less hitting sharply on the hearts of people that I love piece. But have since made amends for doing that. And it's very on brand for me, like the plays that I wrote as a middle schooler and a teenager. I wrote directly about what was going on in my life, and it made a lot of people upset. So I'm trying not to do that anymore, but
but like
mind your
that's
own
like
life for stuff.
Yeah.
And there's obviously like a Fantasia element to it. Like I don't know it. I don't think anybody that I know has murdered anybody in a club, but it's still, and some of it came from my own life and my own relationships. There are direct lines in My Valentine that are things that partners said to me, and it was shocking to see the way that resonated later. I did hear from a lot of people in the year after it came out, a lot of dads actually, who were like, hey, my daughter was in a relationship just like the one in this movie, same language, I made her watch it. I was like, oh boy. So, and there's some ridiculous fun shit in that movie too. But it was really made like it was such a raw expression and such a chaotic production experience. I feel very fortunate to have gone through it, but if I hadn't set myself up for creative success the way that I did, I absolutely would not be where I am today. I would have been run over.
And you said 17 days?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that TV show, my old boss, Nick Antosca, him and his wife wrote an episode of it, and I was an assistant at the time, so I kind of got to see that whole process of like it being made and all that. And yeah, it is kind of a miracle that a lot of those movies end up like pretty dang good for how quickly they shoot. But how was that production process? I know you said it's chaotic, but like, I mean, I guess most people's first features, there's not enough money and it's very chaotic, but like, did you feel at least somewhat prepared?
I think that the areas where I felt really a lot of strength and support were, number one, I had Scott, as my producer, which of course was an unbelievable blessing the whole way through. I also got my own, through happenstance on the show, I got my own team to shoot it. Previously, it had just been the same DP and production designer on every single one. And I think the one before me had exhausted some people out of the system. So I got brand new people who came in and pitched their work off of my script. So, the look and the feel of Valentine was very intentional, had a little more prep time than some of the other ones. Loved my editor. And I also, another part of the basis of doing it was that I had been watching Glow, which everyone was at the time. And I loved Britt Baron so much. I thought her work was so good on that show. And she also looked uncannily like my dear friend and great actress, Anna Laurie. So when I was building the concept, I was like, I'm going to go after Britt and I'm going to have them play lookalikes. And that was actually a hard fight to win, despite the uncanny similarity in their looks. But they both did it. And I also hugely lucked out in the rest of the cast. Benedict Samuel is incredible. And I remember him turning to me in the middle of, because it's I should have said what the movie's about. It's I don't even know if I can say it at this point. I'm all like dizzy. But a manager of a music manager of artists is with one girl, dumps her, takes her music, and hands it to another girl who looks just like her. Things blow up. And then when first girl decides to get back on her feet and start playing her own songs in public again, he shows up, shuts the club down, and tries to both win her back in a fucked up way and kills everybody. Spoiler.
Classic.
Yeah. Benedict, very serious actor, and he sent one tape, and off of the one tape from New York, we were all just like, I think it's this guy. He doesn't have time we don't have time to have him do a callback. He was like shooting some like Gotham at the time. Anyway, he said yes. He came in, and then we're in the middle of doing what is ultimately this very fucked up play inside of there was like a sports club in Simi Valley that was shut down, condemned, and disgusting, and the production design team turned it into that beautiful club in the movie. I'm also talking about this like you guys have seen it. You very well may not have. So he's having to do these like long, really like bipolar, like complicated speeches and go to these dark places very authentically. And the biggest compliment I think I ever got on that movie was when he was looking at the piece we were about to shoot, and he turned to me and he pointed at something in it. He's like, this turn, like, I don't understand. And then he just stared at it again, and he was like, no, never mind. It's all in the text. And then he did the take, and it was perfect. And that, as a writer, was like very meaningful to me.
That's beautiful.
It's on the text. Really,
yeah.
High compliment.
Oh my God. Yes.
Wow.
And like when you're in that like high pressure cooker situation, what did you feel? Was there a lot of like, obviously not your producers, but is like Blumhouse kind of like breathing down your neck, or were they kind of like, this is your free space, do what you're doing?
I mean, there were producers of the series in full who were hands-on and you know, also trying to navigate what the whole thing is supposed, you know, it is a series, but it's not. And, you know, there was always a weird kind of balancing act that I think everyone had to do between figuring out how much of this is like, we're just letting the filmmaker do what they want and it's an incubator program, and how much are we trying to control the product of, you know. I felt that tension going on for them all the time, and was also trying to figure out my place in it. But I'm, you know, ultimately very proud of the resulting film, you know, again, as like a really raw expression. And also I was told that I didn't have to worry about the runtime, and then all of a sudden I did. So that's
bamboozled.
That's why there's a extra music video just like tacked on the end of the movie.
Wait, that's like, I think that's something that people don't always think about. Like the show that I was just on, it's a Star show, and it's like a really big conversation to have, to be like, I'm making the thing I want to make with the characters in the world I want, but I also am like a little bit like, this is within a series and this is on a channel that has a specific vibe. And I think like juggling all of that just seems like so difficult.
Our jobs are always a tightrope walk, right? Between the art and the commerce and the people who are giving you the money to make the movie, the people who are going to pay money to see the movie. All of it is a balancing act. And then within it, I think the best thing you can do every time is just hit your own target, because everything else is really beyond your control. And I've definitely learned over the years which, like on the next movie I make, like what battles I will fight. Like I think you do get better and better at that, at knowing where to put your foot down. And I really have, about My Valentine, I have no regrets in that regard. I think I got really lucky that I mostly made the movie that I really wanted to make.
Did you feel like right after you made that feature that it kind of unlocked the next part of your career? Like, was that a pretty immediate thing, just in terms of like, oh, this person has now made something? I do see that the timing is kind of funny. This came out like, what, a couple weeks before lockdown?
Well, and that's a nightmare. I also think that's kind of one of the things that people don't realize is like, you can go make this, but like sometimes are you waiting until it comes out to be like, now I'm going to get a lot of calls, or were you already getting kind of like...
I was doing the water bottle tour already. After, like, as soon as the edit was finished, then my reps were like, let's have you go meet the town. We don't need to show them Valentine. We have retrograde. It's time for you to kind of like meet everybody as a screenwriter. So I went and did that again, like right before like the door was closing, the lockdown. Movie came out, and then I had I had a really extraordinary 2020 because I entered the pitching era of my career all via Zoom. And I think that getting to learn how to pitch via Zoom was so lucky. I got so lucky. Didn't have to memorize, you know?
I was going to say, yeah, explain like why you like the Zoom. I like Zoom pitching too.
I do too.
I think all of us that are from this era are like, would much rather pitch it on Zoom. Because you can have your whole pitch written up in front of you like a teleprompter, and you can really control the environment, you know, especially if you have any kind of filmmaking skills or you've made any kind of content. It's so easy to just build the Zoom into your favor when you have to sit in a conference room you've never been in before and look 3 powerful executives in the face and give them your song and dance by
jazz hands.
Yeah.
Wait.
I actually did my first fully in-person pitch ever. I'm discounting one before I was like really in the game, but like the real deal last July.
Wow.
And I was so nervous.
It's so nerve-wracking in person, yeah.
The first one I did, I missed my cold open. Like I didn't say the cold open, and I was like, none of this that I'm about to tell you is gonna make sense, so we're gonna rewind. My bad. Like,
wait, I have a logistical question that I'm always curious how people handle. So I also did a lot of pitching on Zoom early to mid-pandemic, and at first I didn't have any visuals that I was showing. And then the first time I realized, oh, I have to do a full screen share of my deck. I was like, wait, how do I handle the
clicking
pitch
and
stuff?
the reading and the clicking
and
the
reading?
reading.
Then what I would do is I would share my deck from my laptop, but then I would have a separate stand that had my iPad, but I didn't want to be turned away from the computer. So then I had to like finagle it so that it's like in front of me. It looks insane. So I'm just curious, how did you do that?
Yeah, there was some of that, a little bit of like, I put the iPad here and then, you know, and try to like angle my body.
It's surprisingly complicated,
like,
yeah.
You're like, what? I'm just leaning.
I'm just like over here looking this way.
I also had a lot of early days with those Zooms. My Wi-Fi sucked. So there was a degree to which I was like, is the Wi-Fi going to hold for the duration of what I'm doing here? But then I don't know. I also at that juncture, a couple of amazing things happened. Scott and I were getting together romantically at that point, and he went in and took the Labyrinth job for a while and was like, and I know the screenwriter for it, the fucked up fairy tale girl that I'm seeing. And so that job was like life-changing. That was also the last time I was in a gym before lockdown. I remember that very vividly. I was like weightlifting and I got a phone call and he was like, you're gonna write Labyrinth. I was like, what? And of course we did a whole development thing. I wrote a bunch of drafts and they have moved on to another team. And
Classic.
Godspeed. I hope that movie, I mean, I was team number, I don't know, like 3, 4 or something like that. So it's just one of those projects that will one day find its feet. And
it's I think that's one of those things though, like it's like, that is still like, you did it. It's like massive to like your backlog of work and resume, like in the industry, you know what I mean? Like, I think people don't always realize that it's like, oh yeah, it's still in the process and it's still getting kinks worked out. But like that to your team and to everyone in this town. Yeah. It's so important.
Oh yeah. Oh, huge. And you know, that also really established me as a studio writer. That's another thing that I didn't realize as it was happening, that's like a kind of notch in your belt of being trusted by studio system people. That it's a little bit different than the more indie world. You know, there's a lot of different I want to call them like modalities of making movies now. And, the two areas where I have currently found the most success are like properly in the studio system, pitching on existing IP, and then specs that I have optioned to kind of different levels of places, actually.
Can you explain options?
Yeah. Can I? Yeah, I can.
Like, actually, I'm gonna log off now.
Actually, can I? Optioning a script is when a company pays a certain amount of money to temporarily own your script, rent your script, and consider making it and try to put together making it. And usually it's for a certain duration of time, and then they will either have made it by the end of that time, or they will pay a little bit of money to extend said option, or they'll just say, well, we tried, and let it go. There are also 1,000 different versions of how that can all play out, but that's roughly what it is.
I wanted to ask you, because I want to make sure we talk about Black Phone 2, but
yeah,
you have a couple books you're adapting, and we were just talking about this recently, so I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the key in pitching yourself as the person to adapt a book?
First of all, I think it helps if you love the book. I know there are writers that will disagree with me, where they're like, just at bat as many times as you can on anything. I am not that. I have landed jobs that I wound up hating because I didn't actually love the material. And that was some of the biggest mistakes in my career. Very grateful for the paycheck, but also wasn't good for me. And I'm in a fortunate position where I'll never do that kind of thing again. So you don't have to love the book in its full form. I mean, a book is a book and a movie is a movie. And often there are kernels of ideas and concepts in a book that will make a great movie. But if you just directly adapted the book, it wouldn't really work. Ghost Eaters is the second book I've adapted. I've adapted some other kinds of material as well. Ghost Eaters is the most directly adaptable piece of material I've ever worked with. It feels very cinematic when you read it. It has a lot of like horror movie type scenes, and the characters are people that you really understand and can visualize in a cinematic way. But yeah, I think that the crucial thing when you're pitching on books or any IP whatsoever is just like, you got to be excited about the story you're going to tell. And that will make a palpable difference. I think every time producers and buyers will feel passion from you. I know it sounds a little hokey, but, my thinking about pitching is always to tell a great campfire story. And that has served me very well. Also, the two things that I always have to remind myself are slow down and stop smiling so much.
And then their head blows up and you're like,
I write on a Post-it, slow down and tell a great campfire story every time when I stick it on my computer, which I couldn't do at my in-person pitch. But I actually, the in-person pitch sold, so
nice. So you could handle it.
It worked out without the post. Yeah.
I do have one question before we do Black Phone. How many things are you working on at any given time? I think that's like kind of a thing new writers, new filmmakers don't always understand.
Yeah, I think at the moment the active slate is 5 things. One that I'm scripting, one that has been rewritten and is awaiting greenlight, one that has been rewritten many times and is out to cast, one that is two, that the deals aren't all the way closed, and when those close, we'll be writing. And that's I would say since 2021, that's about average for me. And if I don't have something that's like with a company, I will be putting more things in the pipeline on my own. I'll be hunting for material to adapt. I'll be speccing. I'm really a big believer in always be speccing. If you have the bandwidth, sometimes, I mean, you can only write so much. And I really am envious of people who can write really fast. I'm not wildly fast. I'm not the slowest writer in the world, but I'm not crazy fast.
I agree with that statement. Like, I feel like it's, and I don't know, my friend group always says an object in motion stays in motion. And that has like become like a very firm belief in my life about writing.
I don't know if it's like an anxiety response or whatever, but I also love to be able to put one thing down and work on the other, get a mental break from this one by working on that one. And it's like tending your little garden all the time. And like, I can go over here and work with this and then on that. And if they're not answering my email about this one, then I have this one. I think sorry, I keep going on these wild tangents with you guys, okay. But when I was in theater school, our student body was also like junior members of the National Board of Review. So we got to go to the National Board of Review Awards, and we got to see screenings, and the screenings always had filmmakers there. So the first screenwriter that I became aware of really as like a character was Diablo Cody. I met her at the National Board of Review Awards. She was like doing her thing for Juno. I read her book. I really understood like, this, and I was so fascinated by how like a person that interesting could, do this formal thing. Like her backstory is so incredible.
Yeah.
So I think like I've forgotten why I went on.
We were tending gardens.
Because she says something in her book about how, or maybe she said it on Twitter, I don't know. She said something about how writing Juno on her lunch breaks was like, she had like a little secret that belonged to her. It was her private fun time. And so I do love to always have something like that in the mix. And I'm like, this one's for me for now, and the other guys are out there being sold and marketed and whatever. Yeah.
Well, I do want to talk about Black Phone 2 because I have seen it. Obviously saw it at Fantastic Fest.
I forgot. I was like, it doesn't come out till tomorrow. Oh, okay.
I think it is for me, it is a sequel that is better than the original. It's very different. It's completely like it's a swing in a different direction. But yeah, what do you want to tell us about Black Phone 2? I'm sure it was a really wonderful experience. I love your BTS that you posted.
Oh, thank you. I have so much. I don't even know.
Oh my gosh, you have to share it all. You have to. People love BTS. People love it.
I just knew from after, because I was the second unit director on the first one, which is a much smaller, that was a 10-day job. Second unit directing and executive producing on Black Phone 2 was 35 days of second unit filming to the 48-day shoot for main unit. So like there's effectively 2 movies packed into one movie. It was a lot of material. It was a very ambitious movie to make.
Yeah.
And but I knew from having made the first one and not filmed a lot of BTS, I was like, I'm gonna be getting my camera out for this one because the kids are gonna want it. I'm gonna want it. I think that the Black Phone experience as a whole, and Black Phone 2 in particular, I have gotten to take this masterclass in horror filmmaking, and to be a creative participant in this movie in particular. It was the gift of my life. Everybody who worked on it was really was really bringing their A game in a different way. I've been on a lot of sets, and there was something to the feel of this one where we all kind of understood how high the bar was, and we all really, really wanted to hit it. And, I think, of course, movies are going to hit different people different ways. There are people who love the first one who do not care for this one, and majorly vice versa. But I think if you have an open heart, you will really love this movie. I mean, it's a horror movie, but it's a horror movie made from the point of view of love. And I'm quoting Ethan Hawke on that one. This is, it's brutal, it's gory, it's really scary. I had an unbelievable blast, but I also worked harder on it than I've worked on anything in my whole life. And it was worth using myself up in the pursuit of what we did. It was worth every late, brutally cold night. There's one shot I'm especially proud of where we're in a dream and we're focused on one woman in a phone booth, and we're coming around and there's another girl behind her. And it was 6 degrees, and we were next to an icy lake, wind coming at us. The girls in between takes were having to be like covered in these heat tents. It was really an endurance test, but it was unbelievable, and I'm so proud to have been part of it.
Oh my God.
I'm excited for people to see it. It's really intense. It's really, really good.
I loved the first one. Thanks. I will say, I'm a sucker for kids in horror. That's like, I don't mean it in a, I don't mean that in a weird way, but that is like kind of like the horror that I tend to enjoy most. Yeah. So I'm very excited I'm scared. I'm going to be like doing this thing as always, but I'm very scary. Excited. Yeah. Okay.
It's higher octane on every level than the first one. And it's a different, it's high school horror instead of middle school coming of age supernatural thriller. It's a very different kind of tension. Another story I'll share that I really felt like I got to level up as a filmmaker on this movie. We were shooting in the Algonquin Highlands at an actual campground, and we were shooting on Super 8, which is very unstable. Like the film cameras were struggling in the cold. They were struggling not in the cold, but there were times where I would hear the camera going like trying to get up to speed, which gave it a lot of like interesting texture and like speed changes organically that are really cool. But there was one shot where chasing a child to his death in the woods in a blizzard, in a real blizzard, and we did it, and it was super late, and I knew I had to get the crew home offset because it's like a 2-hour drive back to civilization, and there was a snowstorm going on, and the roads are icy, and it was like very dangerous to keep anybody longer. But I also knew, even without real monitoring, that we didn't quite get the shot. Like, it didn't feel right to me. So I called Adam Hendricks, our buddy Adam Hendricks, who was our on-set creative producer and a godsend, on the way back in the car in the treacherous snowstorm. And I was like, we have to rush the film development, but also just know it didn't turn out, and we should just put this shot back on the schedule, which is kind of against my run and gun sensibilities. I never have enough time to do something like put a shot back on the schedule. If I kind of got it, then I got it. But I'm trying to hit Scott Derrickson's bar. And I know at this point I've been around enough scary that I know what is and isn't scary. So a couple days later, it's back on the schedule. We shoot it again in a different place. And at the very last, we had gotten a couple takes that could work. I was like, let's run it in slow-mo. And then because it's in slow-mo, there's going to be no sound. So we had been doing it. And there's also like the windstorm is super loud. The kid who's getting murdered had just been doing the action, but he hadn't been making any noise. So I looked at Shepard Monroe, little Canadian actor, his first movie. I was like, okay, we're going to do it one more time, and I need you to really scream this time. So we did the takes in the movie. He really screamed. When I called cut, the whole crew behind me went,
And you're like, yes, exactly.
Like, we did it.
Got it,
Joe. Like,
oh, so that's amazing.
And that's like,
that's what the high that you're looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the feeling of like, I know what I'm doing as a filmmaker in a different way now. I'd liken it to the thing in the second Italian Job with Charlize, where she's like, I don't have to do it by touch, with safe cracking. Like, I could do horror movie safe cracking by feel now.
That's amazing.
Use all my tools.
Oh my God.
That is awesome.
I'm so excited.
Well, everyone should go see it. We have one question we always like to ask people at the very end, and that is, can you share with us, you only have to choose one, either a high, a low, or a hell no from your career thus far?
It's all highs. No. What do people usually do for this? That's a tough one.
Sometimes they like to end on a high. Sometimes they like to end on a funny hell no.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just like, this is what I wouldn't do again, as a lesson to young people.
A thing, I guess, to like, not to, it is going to rehash, but the hell no is taking on material just to have a job. I know it seems really, when you first get into it, you're like, oh, I need a job. Being employed is the thing. And like, you got to put food on the table. But I will never again go after material or get into something creatively that I don't, with my whole being, love. Because if it works out, if you do get the job and you do make the movie, you are living with this thing. You are living and dying by this thing for the next like 2 to 5 years, and then some. If it comes out, I mean, that's the thing that's terrifying about putting a movie out, is like a movie with your name on it. You're responsible for that for the rest of your life and ever after. So like, love what you do and fight for the quality of what you do. I think it's really important. It'll seem like it isn't important when you're in the mix just trying to get a job, but it's very important.
That's good advice.
That is very good advice.
Yeah.
Thank you.